For 2022, Cobra have 3 brand new driver models, all with different selling points. But which one is going to be right for your game? Let's go find out. Cobra drivers look pretty different this year, and that comes down to the mass amount of technology that they've packed into these club heads. The new power core technology means there's loads of weights both internally and externally on the club head. This is going to drive up ball speed and also get the CG exactly where Cobra want it in each model to optimise the ball flights. Overall, they also have a multi-material construction, and we see 30% more carbon than we saw in the previous rad speed drivers, which means they can reposition that weight and use it elsewhere where it's more beneficial. Inside the head we have a T-bar chassis, and this is made of titanium. It brings more weight low and back in the club head, which drives up MOI and forgiveness. Finally, we've got the new hot face technology. This stands for highly optimised topography. And the reason it's called that is there are now 15 different areas on the club face that all have different thickness and textures. If you looked at this perfectly, it would look like a topography map. And the reasoning behind this is that you need different thicknesses on different parts of the club face to give you optimal ball speed when you strike it in different places. So what Cobra are saying this will do is give you maximum ball speed regardless of where you strike it on the club face. So first up we have the LTDx model. This is designed to be in the middle of the range out of the 3 options. It's designed to give you quite a lot of forgiveness, and it's got very high MOI, up over the 5,000 mark. But it's also designed to give you a really good balance of distance with that. Really, this is someone who's looking for fairly low spin and distance, but they also want that extra benefit of forgiveness. So I think out of the 3, this is probably going to be the one that's most popular. But let's hit a few shots and find out what the data's like. Now, over the ball, this is pretty similar to previous Cobra drivers in the sense that you've got that engraving on the club face that really stands out. And I do like the fact that that's that bright focal point in the middle with that circle that looks really nice behind the golf ball. In terms of the colouring, I do think they've simplified it a little bit more. It's all matte on the top, which I think is really nice because there is a few things going on in terms of different textures and ridges and colours, so the matte just kind of neutralises it all and makes it a little bit more simple. Now, sometimes I feel like Cobra clubs can sit a little bit open at address with their drivers, but I actually really like the way this is sitting behind the golf ball. Pretty nice ball flight to start. Quite high actually, I probably wasn't expecting that. In terms of the numbers, we've got 140 ball speed straight away. I'm definitely pretty happy with that. And 232 carry, so pretty good numbers so far. Still a nice strike, actually flew a little bit lower, which was probably a little better. And I've seen the spin drop a little bit there, so although I didn't get quite as much ball speed down in the 138s, I've still got up to 234 carry, which I'd definitely be really happy with. I think it's quite interesting in terms of the height. With this, in terms of trying to drive up ball speed, there's a lot of internal and external weighting. And you can see we've got this weight on the back too. So pulling that weight back and on the edges is going to give you more forgiveness and more MOI, but it's also going to give you more launch. And we're definitely seeing that so far in the shots. Oh, that was really nice. Felt pretty quick off the face. I do like the sound of this, but I would say it's probably doesn't sound as quick off the face as some, even though it feels faster. But that was actually my fastest shot so far in terms of ball speed. I was nearly up at the 142 mark, and that's given me 235 yards in carry, which is pretty impressive. I'm definitely liking the distance off this so far. Now, what's pretty nice about this is, even though I've got a high ball flight, which I do like to see, the spin numbers are staying pretty low. So at the moment I'm averaging about the 2,500 mark, which is definitely pretty good. So it's giving me really good control of that ball flight, even though it is fairly high. I think that's quite important. A lot of amateurs don't launch it as high as they want to, which does mean they don't get as much carry distance. So having that height but in the controllable area of spin is really going to help. That looked a bit more spinny. It's typical, as soon as I've said that, the spin's gone up. That was actually just over 3,000, but still like 141.6 ball speed and over 230 carry distance. So to be honest, I'm really impressed with those numbers. Let's see if any of the models can actually beat that. So next up we've got the LS model, and that stands for low spin. And the way that Cobra have done this is by putting a lot of weight forward. So you can see on the sole here we've got these two weights, and there's also weights internally. So we've got 32 grams near the front. Now that's going to help bring down that spin. It's also going to make this a more workable model. So people who want to shot shape a little bit more are definitely going to like this. And I think this is probably one you're going to see on tour the most. Now a big thing about these weights on the bottom is that you can move them around. So one is heavier and one is lighter, so if you want it to be a bit more draw biased or a little more fade biased, you can control that. So currently I've got the 10 grams in the heel, because for me that's what I'd prefer. More weight in the heel is going to make it probably more draw bias, but if you wanted to suit that fade a little bit more, you don't want to see shots going left, you could easily switch these round. Now visually over the ball, I'm not going to lie, this almost looks identical to the previous model, and I think that's nice because you don't have to pick in terms of a visual you prefer and then performance. You can kind of just go on performance and the visuals all match up. That was actually a really nice ball flight. Sometimes I think with a low spin model that personally I wouldn't spin it enough to control this, but the height of that was actually probably quite perfect for me, and the spin looked pretty good too. If we just take a little look at the numbers, yeah, the spin was in the high 2000s to be fair, which probably wasn't as low as I would expect, and I've got up to 226 carry with that, so pretty good for my first shot. The ball speed was down a little bit compared to the others, I would say 138 so far, but it is my first shot, so let's see if we can get that up a little bit. Oh, that was nice. That felt really fast. Flew pretty high too. Okay, that was nearly 144 ball speed. I think that is probably the fastest speed I've recorded in all my testing so far this year, and it's given me a 240.5 carry distance. Maybe I should just put this in the bag now. It's quite interesting, the difference in height. I think that's probably going to work for some people with this being a little bit lower. Definitely probably those faster club head speed players. So with this so far, I'm looking at this being about 15 feet lower. So previously I had about 115 feet on average with the just standard LTDx model. And with this, we're looking about just under the 100 mark currently. So if you're someone who does hit it really high and wants to bring that ball flight down, this could be a great option. Oh, that felt good. Honestly, these shots have been pretty damn straight. I'm pretty pleased with the dispersion, because I think there is that thing when it's low spin, you're not sure how well you're going to control it. And when someone says, oh, it's workable, you think, oh, suddenly you're going to be hitting really massive like left to right shots, which definitely hasn't been the case here. I know I've got more weight in the heel, but I'm probably just hitting like tiny little baby fades or straight shots here. I'm definitely quite liking that so far. Now, in terms of spin, this is obviously a low spin model, so you would expect this to drop down, but I'm not sure if I would have expected to see less spin than what we've got. It's dropped about 300 RPM from the standard model, but I'm not sure if I would have expected a little bit more of that than not. Regardless, I'm liking the shots it's creating and the numbers it's given me, so in terms of performance, I'm pretty happy with this right now. So the last model is the Max, and it's called that because it's the one that has the most stability and max draw bias. Now what I really like about this is it's not just a draw bias model. Lots of brands have one model in their set that's just designed to be draw bias and help the person who needs that, but with this you have movable weight options that you can move around to make it what you want. So you can either have max stability and forgiveness and put the weight at the back, or you can have max draw bias and put more weight in the heel. Now, for now, what I've done is I've left it in the back, because for me, I won't probably be looking for loads of draw bias. I'll be looking for more forgiveness. But I'm going to see how draw bias and how forgiving it is in that setting, and then you always know that you can move this around if you need more draw bias. Now, another thing I would add is you can adjust the hosel too and put this into a draw setting, and Cobra is saying that will give you an extra 7 yards of draw as well. So there are lots of options here where you can make this more draw biased or make it suit you as you would like to see that ball flap. Okay, that definitely went high. Maybe it should be max height as well. But straight off the mark, felt good in terms of direction, good ball speed, and straight away we've got like 2-3-1 carry. So pretty good numbers to start. That was a really nice, just like a straight tiny little draw. I think I really like that so far, even though I've only hit a couple of shots. This does seem to go a little bit more straight and start a little bit further left than the other two models, even though it's not set into kind of that maximum draw position. You know what, I really didn't feel like I struck that my best at all. Like, it felt like it came a little low off the pace, but it had a really solid ball flight, still great height, and still great numbers. I'm really impressed with this so far. It's definitely seeming to live up to that forgiveness, but you can see we're getting a bit extra height. That was up in like the 126 in terms of feet. So if you don't want to hit it that high, maybe this isn't the model for you. Then again, you could pull this weight back into the kind of heel to bring that ball flight down a little bit. But if you're someone who needs some more launch and wants more hang time, definitely a great option. The ball flight's just so nice. I feel like it's pretty easy to hit as well. Like, I don't feel like I have to put a perfect swing on it to still get a good shot, which is definitely a nice bonus. In terms of distance as well, it seems to have been really consistent so far. I mean, nearly all my shots have flown over the 230 mark, which I'd definitely be pleased with out on the course. Do you know what's really impressive about this is just how consistent all the variables seem to have been. And even with dispersion, this is really strong. Like, I've hit 10 shots there and 2 of them I've left the face a little bit open and they've finished just right of the target. But all the other 8 have been really tightly packed together, slightly left of target and just nice little draws. To be honest, I think that might be the most impressive dispersion I've had with the driver in testing for a very long time. So in terms of overall performance there, all 3 clubs were seriously impressive. And to be honest, there's probably not as big of a difference between the 3 as I would have expected. The LS did end up as the longest model, very marginally by 3 yards. It had the most ball speed up at 142, and I also had my longest shot of the test with this up at the 240 mark. In terms of spin, it was lower. It averaged about 300 RPM less than the others, but I'm not sure if that's as much as I would have expected given how much weight there is at the front of this. When we move into the standard model, again the carry distance was really good here. It was down at 230 carry on average, so only 4 yards shorter, which really isn't much difference at all. But we did have quite a bit more height on this, so it was averaging up at 115 feet compared to just under 100 with the LS. So if you're looking for more height, this is definitely a great option. But I do think it was the Max for me that was the most impressive. I didn't have it in the max draw bias setting, I had it in the max forgiveness setting. And the dispersion was so good. I mean, 8 of my shots were so tightly packed. Out on the course, I'd be hitting a serious amount of fairways. In terms of distance, this was the second best out of the 3. It averaged up at 232, and I think I'd be pretty happy with that carry distance, as would a lot of golfers. Now in terms of spin, this was almost identical to the standard model. They both averaged in the 2,900s, so pretty similar. Obviously I've not been custom fit into this model, so there could be some shaft benefits that we could do to bring that down a little bit if we wanted. The flight was also quite high here, it was about 111 feet on average, so again quite similar to the standard model. We did see overall, the dispersion here was probably slightly further left than the other 2. It wasn't excessive, but obviously you do have those options in the club head to move the weight round in the actual head and also on the shaft if you want more draw bias. Overall though, I've been seriously impressed with these 3 models, and to be honest, I would be happy to put any of them in play. Right, That's all for today. If you have any questions about any of these models or any of the rest of the new Cobra lineup, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications too. And if you're after more golf content, head over to the National Club Golfer social media channels for more.